Hi, this is Craig Satterlee in Northern Michigan, and this is take one for the week of July 23rd. Peace be with you. I continue to remember several pastors in my prayers, and I invite you to join me in remembering them in your prayers. I'm remembering Pastor Roseanne Anderson, Pastor Vicki Blau, Pastor Joan Herbon, Pastor Dana Hendershot, Pastor Rachel Laughlin, Pastor Sarah Samuelson, and Pastor Lorraine Sund. So I invite you to hold all of these pastors, colleagues, and friends in your prayers. I have a Zoom week, have some Zoom meetings on Monday, call committee training with St. Paul in Reed City on Tuesday. I'm excited because Pastor Bright will be joining me. On Wednesday, we have staff meeting, and then I'll be making a pastoral visit. On Thursday, we have the conference deans, and on Friday, I hope to be heading back to where I am now. So that is what the scheduled part of my week looks like. I'm also working on writing a proposal for the 2024 and 2025 Synod Assemblies for the agenda and the theme and that kind of stuff. And that is a big job. And then with pastors being ill and it being summer, we're doing our best to cover our congregations with ministers of word and sacrament and doing a good job of that. So that's kind of what the work week looks like. The parable for next Sunday it's a number of parables. It's like Jesus giving rapid fire what the kingdom of heaven is like. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure in a field, like a pearl of great price, like a net, and like a treasure that a householder brings out old and new. And the temptation, I think, is to equate those parables not with the kingdom of heaven, the reign of God, but with the church. Because what we want to think is, our little congregation is going to be like a mustard seed and it's going to grow and it'll be a great tree and all of the birds of the air will come and make their nests and we're going to be a big church. And I think it's clear that Jesus is talking about the kingdom of heaven and not the church of the 20th century. A friend of mine texted me from Oslo, Norway, Sunday morning, where he and his wife were traveling. And the two of them had gone to church in Oslo on Sunday. The church seated 400. And in worship, there was the priest or pastor, the organist, 4 worshipers, my friend and his wife. He said they were the center of attention because they were new. The good news is that, like yeast, the kingdom of God, the reign of God, is still at work in Norway as the gospel is preached. The treasure is still there to be found. But as far as big churches, maybe not. And from what I read, from what I hear, the predictions are that the European church will come to the United States beginning on the West Coast and move east, and that this may be our future. It's kind of bleak. And the reasons that I hear this, oh no, this will never happen, and the reasons that are offered are not convincing to me. People say, well, God would never allow our church to close. Well, I can count 15 that have closed in our synod since I've been bishop, and God loved them, and they're lovely people, and churches still close. Our building will go on forever because people love our building. And I'm thinking, yeah, people do love their buildings, but there's a difference between loving a building and maintaining a building and showing up and caring for a building and all of that. Every time we go to a church closing, we hear how much people love the building, love this space, but they haven't been there in a long time. A few weeks ago, I read that the Flapjacks in DeWitt closed. It's the restaurant where I used to have a lot of breakfast and meet with a lot of pastors. And even during the pandemic, Kathy and I got takeout from Flapjacks to be helpful. But when things opened up, we didn't return to restaurants the way we once did. I wonder how many other people found that to be the case. And who knows why Flapjacks closed. It was kind of sad and angry it closed, but it closed. No matter how much we love it. So, we love the building. It'll never close. No, I don't think so. things may close. People think, we need to do this for our children. We need to keep our church going for our children. And that assumes that there are children to receive the church and to care for the church and who want the church. I smile because I've been watching the television series Yellowstone, which is about generations of the Dutton family in Montana. And one of the underlying currents is John Dutton, played by Kevin Costner, is working really hard to save the ranch for his children. And the three children don't really want it. They want to help their dad. They want to keep their dad's dream alive. But, all of them, as of series 3, have indicated that when dad is dead, the ranch will be sold. So, we can't keep it up for our children if our children don't want the dream. And then we somehow think that expressions of the church should go on forever. And it's hard to plan when the goal is forever. When you plan your retirement, you figure 20 or 30 years and you can plan. But if you're trying to plan, 100, 200, 300 years into the future so that your church never closes, you're not going to live today. So the good news is that Jesus is not talking about the institutional church. Jesus is talking about the kingdom or the reign of God. And the reign of God will be here forever, as surely as a few people gather to tell the story of Jesus and to hear the good news. And so the kingdom of God is like a mustard seed. God will work from the smallest of things to create and experience a reign of God where all people are welcome. All people will make a home in its branches, if you will. So it's about proclaiming God's love, God's welcome to all people. The kingdom of God is like yeast. Bakers today know the science of yeast. Back probably when Jesus told his parable, they didn't. So this small thing made this great change. A little yeast makes a big bread. And so we can count on God to use small things to bring great results. And so maybe if we can stop worrying about the future or planning for a future or all of that kind of stuff for a church, we can notice the great things that are happening from the small things that are happening in the reign of God. The kingdom of God is like treasure buried in a field where the person that finds it buys the field, or a pearl of great price where the merchant sells all that he has to buy the pearl. The kingdom of God is worth giving up everything for. The gospel is worth giving up everything for. Keeping the church alive is not. And I regularly say that to pastors. The gospel claims our lives. Making sure that a church that's destined to end doesn't end, that's not worthy of our lives. The kingdom of heaven is like a net, which catches lots of fish. And then at the end, we sort out the good and the bad. The angels do. Which means that for now we're going to have to bear with one another because there's going to be some smelly fish in the net with us. And we talked about that a little bit last week, I think, when we talked about weeds and wheat. Now it's good and bad fish. And then the kingdom of God is like a householder who brings out of his treasury both things old and things new. We seem to live in a time where we are choosing between things old or things new. We have people that want to get back to the way it was. So pick your decade and we'll get back to that. And then we have people that want to kind of burn it all down and be brand new. And I don't think it's things old or things new. And the parable seems to indicate that the reign of God will have things old and things new. So how do we live with that tension? So when we describe all of this, it's obvious to me that we're talking about the reign of God, which is coming, which will come, which has already come in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And perhaps the best way we can secure the church's future, our church's future, is to ask not what can we do to survive, but what do we need to do to bring our church more and more and more in line, make it more aligned with the reign of God. which leads us to conversation about how we understand the reign of God, which leads us to open our Bibles, doesn't it? I keep thinking that more and more, maybe these days, our church's mission statements should be biblical verse, biblical image, and not just cool words that we come up with as a way to ground us in the reign of God. So that's a lot for me to think about and a lot for me to share with you. The good news for me is it really is about the reign of God, and that can be graceful and freeing for pastors, deacons, congregational leaders who get sometimes overly concerned with maintaining and sustaining the church. It is about the reign of God, and the reign of God will come. This is Bishop Craig in Northern Michigan. I hope you're having a good week and a good summer. The peace of Christ be with you always. Take care.